It's Sitting Pretty, baby.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Sitting Pretty. It's your girl Lolo, and I know it's been a minute, and I have not done a collab in a very long time, but I'm very picky with my collabs. That is why. But we are here with my girl, literally the muse of why I started my channel. I told her this, and I'm sure she doesn't believe me, but it's the truth. I saw her channel first on YouTube, and that let me know that there were people out there with disabilities on YouTube, and there was a channel, and I can create my own channel. So we finally have here Miss Annie Segarra.
Hi.
I know you guys are very familiar with her content, because if you're familiar with mine, then I know you're familiar with hers, because she's an OG in the game, and she's been killing it on YouTube, and just literally educating everyone on everything. And so I just have always admired Annie and her content, and so I'm very, very excited for us to be here. We literally just did a collab on her channel, talking about what it's like to be a wheelchair user and be able to ambulate at the same time, what it took for us to get our chairs, what were the decisions that we had to make. Make sure you go to Annie's channel and check out that video as well. So I am going to let Annie introduce herself for those who may not be familiar with her content, because if you're not, then you're slipping, so just get your life together. But I'm gonna let her introduce herself, the kind of content that she makes, and all the different platforms that you can find her.
Oh my gosh, you're the best. Okay, so hi, my name is Annie Segarra, and I have a channel called Annie Segarra. And on my channel I talk about basically my personal experiences and observations, and they often have to do with disability and LGBT issues. So it's this really cool blend of like using my personal narrative in order to inform people about like a life and a culture that they may not be familiar with.
Love that. One of the things that Annie and I were talking about before we started recording was the differences and experiences we have in social spaces with regards to acceptance and confidence when navigating social spaces as wheelchair users. And so she made the comment that I didn't even think about, but she was like, you know, Lolo, maybe you're more comfortable because you've been using your wheelchair like almost 3 times longer than I've been using mine. And for me, that really struck me as like a wow moment, because I didn't even think about the time being a wheelchair user, how that can affect your acceptance and confidence when being out into the world. And so I definitely wanted us to kind of talk about kind of the differences, because I know I get a lot of messages and comments from people who are newly disabled, newly wheelchair users, and all of those things, and them asking me for advice on, you know, how do I do this? How do I, you know, navigate the world and everything else? But not even realizing until this moment that like my perspective and advice is 13 years into being a user.
A senior, a veteran in the world.
Yeah. Exactly, a senior veteran into the world versus someone who is newly a wheelchair user like yourself, because you've only like 3 to 5 years, right?
Very, very short. Like at maximum, I think 5 years. I just wish I could remember the exact date. But
yeah.
So like everyone's gonna feel differently about it, and I think you and I discussed how like for us, by the time that we started using wheelchairs, because we're both ambulatory wheelchair users, we both have a limited ability to walk.
Yes.
But it's so limited that like we need to be wheelchair users. We need to use wheelchairs in order to like make our way around the world, around larger spaces. But by the time that we did start using them, we understood those limitations.
Right.
And we saw wheelchairs as a liberation, and also not to deny the fact that some people will have that experience.
Right. That's
some
a
people
fact.
will experience depression, will experience lower self-esteem when they start using a wheelchair. That wasn't my personal experience, though.
Correct.
Like I was, like I said, very happy to start using it, because that meant that I could leave my home. It meant that I could do things, and I could see my friends, and I could like participate in the activities that everyone was experiencing outside of my home.
Right.
It did impact my self-esteem a bit. Like,
okay.
not like I thought it was the ugliest person or completely unlovable, but it affected me how using my wheelchair, all of a sudden I felt like all eyes were on me all the time.
I definitely feel that.
And like I've reached a point in my 3 to 5 years of like, I don't really notice it anymore, but at first definitely it's jarring that like everybody is staring at you all the time. Because they're like, I don't know, like, whoa, a wheelchair. Like,
you know what? And that's so interesting because I have that same experience as well. Like I spoke about this in a video I did with a friend of mine, Kev, on stage, and I was telling him like that's why I don't go to church. Because I know all eyes are going to be on the girl in the wheelchair, and is she going to need some type of anointing in order to get healed and all these other things.
Right.
So there are definitely like those social spaces and those just being out in the world, knowing that people are looking at you.
Yeah. Whether
you recognize it or not.
Yeah. And then like, it's not even just like the looks, it's also just like the bizarre way that bipeds, people that are walking on 2 legs, because walking on 2 legs doesn't mean that you're not disabled, but like the bizarre way that they'll interact with us, like like conversationally, like there's either extreme of like people who won't look you in the eye, or the people who are overly friendly, and overly helpful, and don't necessarily listen to you if you're like, I'm chill, I don't need help, I'm fine, thank you. They're like, no, but like they
or the
like,
over apologetic ones.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
You have to understand that it's not about you feeling guilty if you behave that way. When you behave that way, you make wheelchair users feel dehumanized and objectified. Like you're not seeing us as people. Right. So, and that's not on us for having disabled bodies. It's not, it's on you for not having diversified your life, diversified your social groups to have already kind of normalized disabled people in your life, because now all of a sudden you meet us and we're like jarring to you, and and so it's not fair that we feel like alien, because you are intimidated by the mere concept of interacting with us.
Exactly. I also want to be sure that people know, and it kind of goes back into the topic of me being kind of like a veteran wheelchair user versus newly wheelchair user, is that, and this is just my experience, but I feel like maybe others would relate to it, but a lot of times we have those experiences, exactly what we were talking about. Both you and I, still to this day, it don't change. It won't ever stop. But we have to be sure to also let people know that it's not always like that every single time you go outside or every single time you go somewhere. Now, that's my personal experience, is that, sure, you get the people that are over apologetic. That's just always going to happen. But I guess for me, because I'm so used to those things happening, that they're not as jarring or as annoying as they used to be. For me, what I've kind of noticed is when you, and I don't know if it's like because mentally I do it and then maybe the energy just naturally projects itself, but when you kind of go into the space knowing you belong there, everyone else tends to respond accordingly. That's why I go to the club. That's why I go to parties. And I'm real quick to ask for help too.
Yeah, like this is not disability related for me. This has been an even prior to my health decline. I was a parentalized child, which means that like I had to grow up very fast. Like by the time I was like 8 or 9 years old, like
you was running the house.
I was
Gotcha.
I was like cooking meals and like I had an abusive dad and had to like it got a little dark. Sorry, but I promise it's only a moment.
That for some reason.
It's only a moment.
Yeah,
it's only a moment.
yeah.
And, like memories of like being a kid and like hiding my little siblings in closets to like protect them from danger and stuff like that. So I've always been like the protector. I've always had to be like the dominant role, the parent role, the responsible role.
I see.
And when the situations would come, even as a kid, where I would ask for help from anybody, especially like in a house of like abuse and toxic behavior, I would be shamed for asking for help. Like not only would they not help me, but they would be like, you're what, are you weak or something? Like it would turn into a bullying situation of like you should feel shame for any moment that you ever ask for help.
Interesting.
So
it's
not even disability related for me. Like I have a problem with asking for help. It's a general thing for me that like in my life I will push myself beyond my limits because there's this trauma in my brain of like I'm not allowed to ask for help.
That's very interesting because I think a lot of times too that we forget, I forget it too, is that we think our behaviors as people with disabilities is only surrounded by our
the disability.
When a lot of times certain things that we choose to do or not do literally is not disability related, but it does affect how we still navigate the world. And navigate disability as well. And so it's just interesting to hear that is your experience as well, as far as asking for help. But because
that's why I clarified too that my specific case of difficulty with asking for help is not disability related, and the reason I clarify it is because for a lot of people it is disability related. For a lot of people it is like this level of internalized ableism that says like that if they ask for help they are being a burden to other people.
Exactly.
And so I wanted to clarify that that's not where my experience is, and no shade if that is your experience.
Right. So now I'm not encouraging everyone to be like crazy flirtatious. My personality is very flirtatious, okay? But in the realm of flirtatious nature, is when you are asking for help to also do it with light energy. Do it with fun. Do it with, flirtate.
Right.
With flirtatious nature. If you want to flirt.
I think we're getting into like social behavior conversation. There's definitely a difference socially with someone who you can tell is like feeling undeserving of help, and someone with the confidence of like this is where I'm not lesser than you for asking for help.
Right.
You and I are equals, and sometimes some of us need help.
Right.
Can you help us sister out?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. But I've done this in other spaces and other arenas or whatever, where shoot, if I see somebody fine and he running that photo booth and I want to sit in that chair, I'm gonna be like, baby, you. I said, can you pick me up and put? You can ask my homegirl. She's been there so many times.
You have them lift you up.
You damn right I do. You damn right I do. You damn right I do. Because that, for me, I'm like,
that is the safest way for you.
One, it's the safest way because I can tell they're clearly 10 times stronger than I am. 2, it doesn't cause me to use my effort and energy.
You're preserving
yourself. I'm preserving myself. And 3, I'm getting the picture that I want. So it's like a win-win.
And also cute boys.
Yes. And cute men are picking me up.
You definitely have to make a video about like flirting and disability.
Yeah.
Please make a video about flirting and disability.
I will. Matter of fact, I actually am going to do that.
Yes,
because,
teach me how to flirt.
Yes, because it literally does change everything. And even when I'm not being flirtatious, because, my preference is men, but even if I want to talk to a woman nicely, I say, baby girl, hey, baby girl, can you do me a favor and, check this out for me? Hey, mama, can you go over there and grab me this drink or whatever the case is? Because one, that's naturally my personality, and that's just how I talk to everyone. I call Annie boo, like, hey, boo. But I do know that it helps because it makes them feel like, okay, she's chilling.
Yeah.
You know,
there's like a comfort layer.
A comfort that comes with that.
Versus like if you approach someone with stress, that stress gets like added onto them. So
Exactly.
like, fun. I'm so glad that we like talked about this because there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like, the optimistic message we can take away is that with time and with like self-analysis, self-reflection, discovery, you can find out exactly what those things are about yourself that you need to work on and actively work on them. And I actually, from here, like, want to circle back to like what I was saying at the beginning. Is like in terms of like confidence, like I'd mentioned earlier that like using a wheelchair did kind of affect my self-esteem in terms of like people looked at me differently. It's just the truth. It affected my self-esteem. I was like, I kind of want to keep my head down and keep my eyes on the ground and like not really look up at people. It affected my confidence in that way. And for me, like the kind of the remedy to that was finding disabled people online and seeing how freaking cool they looked. And being like, I can be that cool also. Like
hell yeah.
Representation and visibility is gonna help you with that. So if anybody out there is going through the same thing of like, you know, starting to use mobility aids or thinking about using mobility aids, there is a whole community of people online that are being radically visible and vulnerable and taking amazing pictures of themselves with amazing outfits. And like for me, that was so helpful, was just to like see other people being confident and living their best lives.
Absolutely.
And I was like, they're freaking hot. I also want to be freaking hot. And like and so at this point I'm just like, it doesn't affect me in that level.
But I think ultimately the lesson is to know that you deserve to be in those spaces just as much as anybody else. And
use it as a mantra. Like, let that sink in. Like, you deserve to
let
exist.
it marinate.
You deserve to take up space, and you deserve to enjoy your life and to like, and whatever makes you happy, like, go for it. And obviously we all have different limitations, and we just have to do our best to like go for the things that bring us joy, and at the same time navigate how to best take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
So but that's on us. That's on us as like individuals, and because it's our body, we know it best, and we're just gonna continue trying to like live our best lives.
Exactly. Go into knowing you deserve it, not through ego, because people could feel that energy as well, but just in a humble, confident way of saying, like, I deserve to be here. I get to experience this just as much as anybody else, and whatever it takes for me to have this experience as much as possible, or as much as anybody else would in this space, I'm going to do that. That is all, folks. This is such a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Annie.
Absolutely.
For being my guest.
Oh my God.
Please go follow her. Like I said, she's a professional. She's the OG in the game. She taught me everything that I know, okay? And she teaches me all kinds of stuff about so many different things. So please go follow her in a real way. And yes, that is all for now. Until next time, it's Sitting Pretty, baby. Peace.